representatives and government representatives, plus the continued public assemblies out on the squares and out on the streets, continue to drive home the same message. But of course, it's a message that up until now, President Mubarak is showing no sign at all of heeding.
Well, Jackie, let me just tell you about what we're seeing right now on state television. They're showing pictures of the vice president in a meeting on the left-hand side of the screen. I believe that's a cabinet meeting. And on the right-hand side, we're seeing a bridge. I think that's the October the 6th bridge, with a couple of people walking on the bridge, heading perhaps towards Tahrir Square. But certainly we're not seeing on state TV the images that we're showing you on Al Jazeera of those tens of thousands of people gathered in Tahrir Square. Jackie, I was going to ask you about the reactions there to the concessions that the government has made so far, concessions such as not prosecuting the people who've been taken to the streets. What do the folks there think about that?
Well, the people on the streets, I mean, they see these concessions as small victories that they've achieved, but they very much they feel the need to continue because their central demand has not yet been met. So it's interesting, Polly, that you mentioned the state television, because that's been one of the big complaints of the protesters in recent days. And in fact, there was talk earlier of attempting to march on the television station, something I don't think looks really practical for security reasons, given the massive army presence around that television building. But the complaint that state television has created a parallel reality, that state television is lying to people, and this great anger that the state media in general and the television in particular are not telling the truth about what's happening in Egypt right now.
Jackie, as we watch these pictures once again, you've been in Cairo for almost 3 weeks now. Do you feel that we are at a turning point now in this crisis?
I feel what is happening now is that people are realizing that this is not a sprint, this is not the 100-meter sprint, this is a marathon. What we're seeing now is people realizing that they're going to need stamina and endurance, that this is going to take a long time. I mean, we met people today in the square, it was their first day, when you bear in mind that the demonstrations have been going on for nearly 3 weeks. And people are coming out still for the first-time demonstrators, who said they'd come to their respect to the people who've been killed and make it quite clear that they find this totally unacceptable and to join their voices to the thousands already demanding that he go. And also people telling me that they need to continue, they need to keep up the pressure, that they need to keep coming. So that seems to be the atmosphere now, very much this idea that while they're demanding that he go now, the word now is still used, the recognition that it's going to take more than a few days to make him.
Well, we're hearing the chants there behind you getting louder in Tahrir Square, Jackie. The crowd certainly not thinning as was feared. In fact, they're growing and growing as the hours grow in Egypt on day 15 of these anti-government demonstrations. Jackie, I don't know if you're still with us, but we've also heard of protests taking place in other parts of Cairo, notably outside of the Parliament building. 1,000 people reported to have gathered there. How significant is it that we're moving away from Tahrir Square, that it's not just Tahrir Square now, but other areas in the Egyptian capital as well?
I think that people feel that it is important to, I think sometimes people feel that the government and President Mubarak in particular are not listening. So they feel that if Mubarak is not listening to the voices in Tahrir Square, then they need to take the protest right to the front doorstep of these people. That's why I mentioned before this idea to protest outside television. However, there are practical difficulties here because of the security situation and the fact that the army does secure certain buildings. I mean, I saw a massive army presence, probably about 20 armoured vehicles outside the TV building, similar security outside the foreign ministry. And of course, there is this problem that while they're in Tahrir Square, the protesters know they're safe, and they know that they can't come to any harm, whereas demonstrating outside other buildings does bring risks as well. So it's certainly important for them to spread the word, but Tahrir Square very much remains the epicentre of this protest movement.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Jackie Rowland, reporting there from the thick of it all, Tahrir Square, where anti-government demonstrations are continuing. Tahrir Square, as Jackie was saying, really the epicenter of these demonstrations, ground zero for these anti-Mubarak demonstrators. But there have been protests taking place in other parts of Cairo, as we've heard today. One of them being outside of the Parliament building, where 1,000 people are reported to have gathered, also asking that Mubarak stands down. Another protest also taking place in Cairo, that one involving journalists who were protesting against their editor, who they accuse of being a crony of the regime. Demonstrations have also been taking place in Egypt's second largest city, Alexandria, where thousands have also gathered on this Tuesday on day 15 of the anti-Mubarak demonstrations, and no signs of things easing there, and the government not showing any signs either of whether or not Mubarak will be standing down. Of course, we're keeping a close eye on the situation in Egypt. We'll be back with our correspondents in Cairo in just a minute. Do stay with us on Al Jazeera. We're going to take a short break for now. Stay with us.
As Washington's allies stumble, one after the other, exposed, losing control and influence, powerless in the face of the people's power, we ask, is this the dawn of a new Middle East empire at this time on Al Jazeera?
It is in the details, a look, a connection, the moments that reveal the truth. Award-winning documentaries from critically acclaimed filmmakers. Witness documentaries to open your eyes. At this time on Al Jazeera.
Home to a diversity of rare species, Latvia's pristine woodlands are a place of magic. But with a strained economy and an eager market, forests are rapidly perishing, and with them their inhabitants. People and Power investigates how 60% of Latvia's timber ends up on UK shelves with a questionable seal of approval. Latvia's pulp fiction, at this time on Al Jazeera.
How many festivals around the world can offer visitors the opportunity to watch cyclists push themselves to the limit, to taste delicious traditional Omani cuisine, to be inspired by cutting-edge Arabic fashion, to experience the thrill of the fastest sailing competition, or to simply enjoy traditional Omani hospitality? Whatever you choose to do, the whole family will be inspired by an event rich in experiences. The Muscat Festival. It's here, January 27th to February 24th.
Opposition leaders hold talks with the Mubarak government, but with protesters refusing to leave Tahrir Square, have Mubarak's concessions done anything to accelerate the change and bring about the orderly transition of power Western governments talk about?
Egyptian people want freedom.
Egypt's dilemma, an Al Jazeera news special.
It is now 1500 hours GMT. Welcome to the News Hour live from Doha. I'm Fuli Batibo with our continuing coverage of the crisis in Egypt. These are the main developments.
The President signed a presidential decree for the formation of a constitutional committee to carry out necessary amendments.
But despite those promised reforms, thousands of protesters pour into Liberation Square as they try to keep up the pressure on Hosni Mubarak. He was dragged off the streets, accused of inciting a revolution. Now a Google executive is freed by the Egyptian authorities.
And I'm Felicity Barr in London with the latest from Europe, including mastermind of death and terror, the Chechen separatist who says he was behind last month's suicide attack in Moscow.
But we start with the situation in Egypt, where it's now 5 o'clock in the evening. Live shots there of Tahrir Square, Liberation Square, which has been the epicenter of these anti-government demonstrators. Today, again, tens of thousands pouring into Tahrir Square, heeding a call for a 1 million-man march. It's unclear whether they've reached that number, but certainly the crowds there look very big. Demonstrations have also been taking place in Alexandria, Egypt's second largest city. Right now, let's have a listen to what's been said in Tahrir Square. Okay, again, the chants there getting louder by the hour in Tahrir Square. Crowds still coming in. Our correspondents were telling us earlier, people still coming into the square, still demanding that